Ooh dear, painful. I guess if he's a player that knows what he's doing, he's triggered that. It's been such a well-made kind of game. It can only, bring more people to the genre. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather be watching the craziness that was Command and Conquer, or the kind of the Baroque drama of StarCraft. Hello everybody, welcome back to Firefly Studios. Simon here, lead designer, and we're going to do a new episode of Game Developers React. So this is a show where we look back on Firefly's previous games, and I attempt to tell you why we made it, how we made it, and maybe even give you some wisdom, although I doubt it. We'll also be looking at some surprise games in a similar vein to Firefly's, comparing, contrasting, so let's begin. So this is Final Vengeance, the last mission for Stronghold. I'm not quite sure who gets the vengeance here, but might be the wolf, might not be. I'm not going to give it away if you haven't played it. The wolf's got some issues, clearly. So this is the player, not me, someone else, building up to take the wolf's castle. The wolf had the best castles. We spent a lot of time in Stronghold. Making good castles actually is easy. It's making the bad castles, making the rats' castles, for example, was the harder one, as I remember. But good idea there with the mantlets and crossbows. Mantlets and crossbows, can't go wrong with that. There you go, his crossbows are down, because that's going to kill your heavy armour. Now you need to get rid of the pikemen at your leisure. It's not a timed mission, so I like this sort of thing, where it's not a timed mission. I can just move them to the exact spot and kill them rather than having to rush in there and then not be very efficient. Moat digging. They're digging up towards that wall and that tower. He's going to try and take that tower out. Ooh dear, painful. I guess if he's a player that knows what he's doing, he's triggered that on purpose. Yeah, that looks like they've gone to pre-trigger the pitch ditches as they try and take out this outer bit of the outer bailey, I guess, of the wolf's castle. They're doing a great job. A bit later on now, they've got the crossbowmen on the tower. That's the thing to do, and then shoot up at the enemies from a tower. Taking control of a tower in Stronghold and parking your troops on it is always the key thing. So it looks like they've cleared the inner gatehouse. So now we've rotated around. They've through the inner gatehouse, and they're up towards the keep for the coup de grace, where the heavy troops, which have not been decimated by the earlier crossbows that they took out, now walk up and fight off his 3 solitary guardsmen and kill the wolf. Or do they? So at the start there, we saw Stronghold, the storytelling approach that we used, which was a simple approach. The thinking behind that really for us was we didn't really have the money to do great big CG cutscenes, and it wasn't, being a 2D game, we couldn't really do in-engine ones. So we needed a simple approach that told a simple story with as much panache as we could afford, both financially and production time-wise. So we went for this simple. Quite often it was two protagonists talking to each other. In this case, it was just the wolf issuing his blood-curdling pronouncements that he was going to come and get you, although he was sat in the castle, so I'm not quite sure what he meant there. But it worked well for us. I think it allowed us to tell the story simply without kind of running up a massive budget that, as a small studio making our first game, we couldn't really afford. So this is a good example of a piece of late game design, and I guess how we thought about it. Stronghold is a relatively hard game, and it needs to kind of do 2 things. It needs to give you the sense of sieging a castle in this mission, but it also needs to give you a challenge. So by its very nature, it's got a puzzle element to it. We saw there in that clip that the player who's clearly an advanced player has run his knights around to remove the areas of pitch. That he's filled the moat in the right place. He's taken the enemy crossbowmen out at the right time. He knew how to play it. And all Stronghold games have a sense that you can't just get in there and play the game in your first pass. Maybe the early missions you can, but generally you're going to need to replay the mission to get good at it. And I think you see that in any hard RTS, and Stronghold is no exception. So the final mission of Stronghold was slightly different to the rest of them because it needed to tell the story. It needed to finish the story off. So it needed you to be on the front foot. So it wasn't as long a mission. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to make the player use a lot of the techniques and a lot of the kit that we'd kind of slowly built up over the course of the campaign. So you saw there trebuchets, pitch, crossbowmen, mantlets. You need to know how to use them by this point, and if you can use them well, you'll get into the castle. Because essentially we wanted this to be like the toughest, the hardest siege, and only if you really knew how to use all these various bits of medieval siege technology that we'd introduced you to, would you complete it? Would you defeat the wolf? Maha. StarCraft 2. I have played a lot of StarCraft 2, but I'd never beat anybody in any form of serious competition. But I do like playing it. I think I've played it through on all the levels now, and even on brutal. Although I do have to go back and play some brutal missions on hard because I can't beat them. But a great, what an amazing RTS it is. It's my kind of RTS, which is kind of very kind of detailed, close in. It's different to Stronghold in that it's a bit more of a pure RTS, I guess. So more of a simple base builder than a kind of sim cross. Obviously flying units, which makes it very different to Stronghold, with the exception of Legends, and it adds a different dimension to it. But I think they focus, and in a way that compared to Firefly, Blizzard had the luxury of focusing really simply on the RTS and not on the sim side or on the castle building side, and we have to do a lot more, so we get slightly less time to get everything balanced to the nth degree in the way that they do. It does look amazing though, huh? I mean, Blizzard, I've always been impressed with Blizzard, the way that they take that kind of cartoon style and run with it, because it makes everything really clear, very, very simple. You get to see the colours of the units. It's, I think what's attracted me to StarCraft in the past, and still does, and why I've spent so long playing it, is because I think it's got a really nice mix of missions. It's got a really simple premise, which is usually kind of base build and defend, but not always. Interleaved with some kind of squad missions where you kind of take a hero character and go off and those missions are a bit of a breather, I find. They're much simpler, they're less stressful. But the bread and butter, a bit like Stronghold, is a defensive RTS. You've got to build your base up, whether you're Terran or you're Zerg, Protoss. You've got to build a base quickly and hold out. And I think they do a great job of mixing it up, I think, with the different mission styles. Even if you're defending, you've got to defend and protect a train, or you've got to defend and go and destroy some temples. Quite a lot of temple destroying, I find, in StarCraft 2. Brilliant game. As someone that works in the industry and works, making RTS games, I was super excited when they announced it all those many years ago, and watching the trailer with Titus getting suited and booted in his exoskeleton, and then when it came out, I just thought brilliant. I mean, it's it's perhaps the biggest RTS out there, at the time, possibly still now, but it's done so. It's been such a well-made kind of game that it can only bring more people to the genre. Bring more people to RTS, get people excited about the RTS genre, because I like it's my favourite type of game, and the more games the better, not just for us as Firefly, but actually selfishly for me as a person. I mean, obviously StarCraft 2 has a huge esport pro scene going on, and rightly so, because it's so well balanced. The game is perfect for it. I think a lot of people have asked us, is that something think of for Crusader, maybe Crusader 2 or something like that. And we've thought about it, but whilst it's kind of an enticing prospect, I think we don't quite have the sort of infrastructure to do it. I think the game itself is perhaps a little bit too complicated to balance as well. I think you need a game that is a little bit more streamlined. Something like a Stronghold title, because of its nature with having the sim side and the builder side as well as the RTS, it makes it really hard to balance perfectly. Certainly to the level of an esports that would require. Also, I think that it's a longer game, really. The Stronghold game. It's a game that just takes perhaps a little bit too long. Compared, I think a good StarCraft game, the ones I've seen on YouTube are about 15 minutes. Aha! Age of Empires returns. Fantastic. Now, I have to admit, at this point of recording, I have not yet played Age of Empires 4. I definitely will. It is on my list to do, and possibly I will do it over Christmas, should my family let me. Really looking forward to playing it. Obviously, I've played all the other Age of Empires and enjoyed it. Massive RTS fan, and a good, high-quality RTS, which is what this looks like, is right up my street. I really like the way they've gone big on the technology. They've gone for a slightly drier approach, which is kind of what we did in Warlords, but not in the rest of the Stronghold series. It's got a slightly Total War-y kind of look about it there, hasn't it, with those groups of units moving in. But obviously it's an RTS, not a kind of grand strategy. But I mean, it looks like the polish level again, brilliant that they're producing a really, really top-notch RTS. It's great for the RTS industry, which helps. Again, it helps us, I think, and it also helps people that love the games. So I guess it's interesting to look at the launch and the marketing campaign behind Age of Empires. I think when we were first starting out, Age of Empires 1 was starting out, and at the time we probably would have viewed them a bit like a competitor in a way. And we had to be better than them, and we had to do different things a bit differently. But now I don't know whether it's just age or what, but I love the fact that Age of Empires is out. It's getting a massive push. It's being shown in Times Square. It's Microsoft's putting their weight behind it. What a brilliant renaissance for the RTS genre, which is just great. For the people that like RTS genres, that's me and possibly you, but also for Firefly, for other smaller teams that are making RTSs. It's brilliant to see money being put behind a really top-notch series like Age of Empires, and I hope Microsoft go on to do more versions of it. I haven't played the Age of Empires 4 yet, but it will be really interesting to see what they change and what they stay true to, because it is such a tough thing to do. If you've got a successful title like Age of Empires, like Stronghold, to innovate, to bring out new features, because if you innovate too much, then you kind of lose what was great about the original game, the stuff that people loved. If you don't innovate at all or enough, then what's the point? It can't just all be pretty graphics. So it'll be interesting to see whether they stay true to their kind of core elements. I suspect they will, and what they do to build on it, because it's a subtle art, I think, that to design new elements to an old and well-loved series, and really looking forward to it and really hoping they get it right. I'm sure they will. So it's interesting just watching that trailer there. They really have gone big by the looks of things on the history first approach. So here's history, here's the game, and whilst I think that'll be interesting to see, to be honest, it's not my favourite. I would much rather have a story, even if the story is a little bit crazy. I like to be kind of pulled through on that. Age of Empires will be a brilliant game to play, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather be watching the craziness that was Command and Conquer, or the kind of the baroque drama of StarCraft, or even the craziness of the simple story that was Stronghold 1. castles. Ah, Medieval 2, I think. So I guess not specifically exactly an RTS in my view, but I mean a hugely exciting, a hugely popular game, and hats off to Creative Assembly for producing a huge success out of this, because on paper it's quite a dry thing, but they've done an amazing job with it. I've not played a lot of Total War. I've usually played all of them a little bit, and I like the battles. I'm less keen on the sort of more turn-based stuff, but that's just me. I know they've done a fantastic job with it, and they've got better and better and better. But I always just wanted to play the battles, which I was average at. But I loved the huge drama with the massive hordes of people, the more realistic kind of fighting of with morale, and the sort of casts of thousands. It was also kind of like such a kind of epic, all-encompassing piece of grand strategy. I know lots of people that have bought every single one and love them. I think the main reason I think I've not got into it as much is I just don't have the time to kind of commit to doing it. They had a series on the BBC went for the original, I think, which was an amazing kind of series about miniature figures brought to life. To me, that is miniature figures brought to life. Yeah, and this is what I liked. It was just basically being able to depose your troops in a way that you thought was going to work, and then send them off. I guess I was just always so bad at kind of when things went wrong. I couldn't move them out quick enough, so I would always get crushed. Oh yeah, this is the battle halfway. Amazing how they got so many, even like 15 years ago, they got so many troops on screen. So I've played, I think, most of the main franchises of Total War, so Medieval and Rome, perhaps the two I've spent more time on. And I love playing the battles. I just never quite have had the time to invest to play the grand campaign. It always seemed to me I would have to spend weeks at it. And I think with my day job doing lots of Stronghold, playing Stronghold incessantly, and with the family, I've not had the time really to get to go and do that. I love watching other people play it, strangely. It's one of those ones that actually watching someone command the battle and me commenting on them and telling him what they should be doing is actually more appealing than playing it myself for some reason. I think what makes me smile, what makes me happy about the Total War series and its success is the fact that it is a bit like Stronghold, a bit of a mongrel, in that Stronghold mixes two genres together, kind of collides sim building with an RTS, and Total War collides this kind of grand strategy game, this turn-based grand strategy game, with these massive real-time battles. It's an unlikely combination, and that's the thing I think that I like about it the most, their kind of ambition to do that, and the fact that they pulled it off. It's taking two very different things and making a really interesting game, and that kind of goes to the heart of what I think makes a good computer game. It's the ideas. It's taking ideas and creating something greater, and they've been so successful with that. That's the thing that I admire the most, I think. So talking a little bit about the battle mode, I think, which is my favourite bit. It's a kind of love-hate relationship. I love the sort of setting your troops out, the disposition. I love the fact that you've got so many different types of troops with different stats and all that sort of thing. I love seeing the actual battles, the way they've kind of, that kind of visceral kind of depiction of a load of troops smashing into each other is bizarrely a kind of joy to see. I guess it's just not RTS. For me, it's not RTS. I like the control, the slightly more kind of unrealistic, in a way, control you get with an RTS. It's a sort of min-maxer in me, I suppose. But I like to be able to drag troops away from battle. I like to be able to chip away at things. in a way, Total War it's kind of like a visualization sim almost of a battle, and it's, I guess RTSs just aren't like that. I mean, one of the things with Total War is you've got to sit there and wait while the armies actually move towards each other. And I think with an RTS, you kind of, it's more efficient. You know, with a good RTS, then it's all about, you know, clicks per minute, isn't it? And there's no sitting around waiting. Whilst on paper they look very similar, they're two very different games, or different genres, I think. So that was another episode of Game Developers React. I hope you enjoyed my somewhat inept critical analysis, but at least I had fun making it. Why not just drop the names of any games you want to see us react to down below, and we'll take a look at them. So to finish, thank you for watching. Hopefully we can do this again. If you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe to our channel, and then we'll continue doing the show. See you next time.